What's a mook?
A mook? What's a mook?
I don't know.
What's a mook?
You can't call me a mook.
I can't?
No.
But he's also really good at comedy too, like even like Dr. Strangelove, which that was another title that I wasn't sure if I even wanted to bring up in this war conversation, because
I was thinking about that a little bit too. And to be honest, that's another Kubrick movie I still have yet to see.
Oh, okay.
But I was thinking, it's too basically like a World War II parody kind of, isn't it? Would you say? Or?
It's not about World War II at all.
Well, it's about like the nuclear bomb, isn't it?
Yeah, but it takes place during the Cold War.
Oh, the Cold War. Okay, gotcha.
But like, for instance, Dr. Strangelove himself is essentially a former ex-Nazi character who also is like, Peter Sellers plays 3 roles in the movie, and Dr. Strangelove is probably the character who's got the smallest screen time of them all.
Okay.
Like he really kind of pops up near the end. It's a great movie. I won't talk about it too much because it's more of a movie about the bomb and sort of political mismanagement and miscommunications, so it was a comedy that was based on like a serious book that the more Kubrick was kind of reading into it, he was kind of like, this is kind of like hilarious. Like it's so outrageous, it just kind of kept getting funnier and funnier until he thought, why don't we just literally make it a comedy?
Interesting.
But it was based on a kind of like a scary, like worst case scenario situation of like, this is a way that like nuclear war could just happen and end the world.
Yeah.
We are rapidly approaching a moment of truth, both for ourselves as human beings and for the life of our nation. Now, truth is not always a pleasant thing. But it is necessary now to make a choice, to choose between 2 admittedly regrettable, but nevertheless distinguishable post-war environments. One where you got 20 million people killed, and the other where you got 150 million people killed.
You're talking about mass murder, General, not war.
Mr. President, I'm not saying we wouldn't get our hair mussed. But I do say no more than 10 to 20 million killed, tops, depending on the breaks.
But no, there was also like in the early 70s, there was actually, weirdly enough, like some of these were like war comedies. Well, there was MASH. I don't know if you ever saw the MASH movie.
I'm a little bit familiar with it. I haven't like watched a whole lot of it. But
did you ever see Catch 22?
Nope.
Okay, because that's my favorite one of the. I much prefer Catch 22 over MASH. I mean, it was based on a famous book. I mean, I remember we read it in high school.
From 1970?
Yeah, and it's
Alan Arkin.
Yeah, it's got a Martin Sheen. You can't have a bad war movie if Sheen is in it. But he's got a much smaller role. This is like probably one of his earliest movies. Art Garfunkel has a role in the movie. Bob Balaban, Charles Grodin.
Yeah. Oh, Anthony Perkins is in it.
Anthony Perkins, Orson Welles is in the movie.
Wow. John Voight. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Charles Grodin.
Yeah, no, it's like. It does such a good job of being funny without being disrespectful. I don't know. I'm a big Mike Nichols fan, and especially in this period was like, he basically made like 5 classic movies in a row. And this would have been his movie right after The Graduate. So, I mean, he was nominated for Best Picture and Director for The Graduate, and for Catch 22, they're like, we'll give you whatever you want, man. And in many ways, it's an epic war movie. It just also happens to be very funny, because it's all about Alan Arkin, who's the main character. He wants out. He just wants to get the fuck out, and so he keeps trying to like kind of plead insanity, and he keeps trying to do crazy things so that he can convince the people that he's unfit to be a soldier.
He's all crazy!
Of course he is. He has to be crazy to keep flying after all the close calls he's had.
Then why can't you ground him?
I can, but first he has to ask me.
That's all he's got to do to be grounded?
That's all.
And then you can ground him?
No, then I cannot ground him. There's a catch.
A catch?
Sure, catch 22. Anyone who wants to get out of combat isn't really crazy, so I can't ground him.
Okay, let me see if I got this straight. In order to be grounded, I've got to be crazy. And I must be crazy to keep flying. But if I ask to be grounded, that means I'm not crazy anymore and I have to keep flying.
You've got it. That's catch 22.
It's got like some great lines.
Why aren't you wearing clothes, Captain?
I don't wanna.
What do you mean you don't want to? Why the hell don't you?
I don't know, I just don't wanna.
Where's his underwear?
In the laundry, sir.
That sounds like a lot of crap to me.
It is a lot of crap, sir.
Sir, you have my word for it. This man will be
punished severely.
What the hell do I care? If he wants to receive a medal without any clothes on, what the hell business is it of yours?
It's my sentiments, exactly, sir.
Here's your medal, Captain. You're a very weird person, Usarian.
As much as the movie's funny, there's also some like pretty like legitimate horrifying moments too that are actually very kind of realistic, and they almost seem more disturbing because they seem almost out of place in this otherwise kind of light-hearted war movie. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I was trying to think. I was like, is this good enough to be in like my top 5? And I don't know if it is, but it's definitely up there. I think it would be in my top 10 for sure. I quite like it, and I think you would enjoy Catch-22. I liked it a lot more than MASH. MASH to me kind of seemed a little bit too immature, and I don't know, it almost like reminded me of like, it almost becomes like a frat comedy movie, like in the way that Animal House does, but it's not as funny.
I want to go to work in 1 hour. We are the pros from Dover, and we figure to crack this kid's chest and get out to the golf course before it gets dark. So you go find the gas passer, and you have him pre-medicate this patient. Then bring me the latest pictures on him. The ones we saw must be 48 hours old by now. Then call the kitchen and have them rustle us up some lunch. Ham and eggs will be all right. Steak would be even better. And then give me at least one nurse who knows how to work in close without getting her tits in my way.
How do you want your steak cooked?
I'm not the biggest Robert Altman fan. Yeah, I don't know, like near the end of MASH, like it ends almost like with a football game, and you're just like, what the fuck? Is this a war movie? Like, what the hell is this? And,
well, I think in general, as a concept of turning a war film into a comedy is an interesting choice, and yet it's kind of something that it takes a real fine touch to be able to pull that off correctly, you know?
We brought you something, sir. We brought you this, sir. Oh, well, I don't know what to say. It's a lovely thought. Thank you. Thank you all. But I think we better get... Hang on, sir. We got something else for you as well, sir. Sorry, it's another clock, sir. I mean, there was a bit of a mix-up. Walter thought he was buying a present, and Spadger and I had already got the other one.
Well, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it does bring me to the movie Life is Beautiful, which we've talked about. More or less a Holocaust movie, even though like the first half of the movie or so take place during the Holocaust. But that is a movie that has got a lot of comedic elements going on, and I remember finding it quite like entertaining and funny when I watched it. And I watched it like as a fairly young kid as well, around the time it came out, whenever that was. Yeah, 97 actually. I've been like 8 years old when I watched that movie. The main character and the way that he's kind of amusing his son to protect his son from the horrors of this concentration camp that they're in.
Urlano perché il premio è grosso, un carro armato vero fa gola a tutti, sai, devono essere duri.
Ma posso vedere la mamma?
Quando finisce il gioco.
E quando finisce?
Bisogna fare 1000 punti. Chi fa 1000 punti vince un carro armato vero.
And, you know, just his whole personality and stuff. He's very funny. And as I recall, the movie's quite funny, but it just walks this very fine line of conveying this tragedy, but humor within the tragedy.
Oh, and the ending's very like heartfelt.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's a really kind of like an emotional ending. And anybody who is familiar with Roberto Benigni would know that his hero was Charlie Chaplin.
Ah, interesting.
And like Life is Beautiful is almost like the great Charlie Chaplin movie that maybe he wouldn't have been able to have made in his time. I mean, the closest thing we could compare it to would be The Great Dictator.
I was going to say The Great Dictator. It kind of has some familiarity to that, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. It's like he took like The Great Dictator and then elements of Chaplin's movie The Kid and kind of combined them together. And then again, also adding like his own kind of Italian sensibilities to it too. None of the jokes in the Life is Beautiful is like laughing at like, oh, ha, ha, like the Holocaust, people dying, Jews.
Yeah.
It was the context of this man who loves his son more than anything is doing everything he can to prevent his child from the horrific reality of the situation.
Yeah, well, and it's like how he spins it is quite hilarious, right? Like when he's telling him that he's going to win a tank and that they're, playing this game. It's quite hilarious just to see how he spins these brutal things.
Ogni giorno vi daremo la classifica generale da quell'altoparlante là. All'ultimo classificato verrà attaccato un cartello con su scritto asino qui sulla schiena.
I don't know if it might even have been Kubrick or somebody who was just sort of like, yeah, you somehow cracked the code. Like, not only did you do it, but you made like an Oscar-worthy movie. I mean, like Roberto Benigni won Best Foreign Film for that. He won Best Actor, which I think kind of shocked a lot of people.
Well, that's a really impressive film. It's a very unique movie too that stands out, and totally think people should give it a watch if they haven't seen it.
And even the whole first half of the movie, which really isn't war-related at all. It's just, you're kind of just following this love story in Italy.
In many ways,
and that stuff's great too.
It's great because it sets up the stakes for what happens later on, you know? You get to know this character and his romantic relationship with his wife, how much he loves his family, and setting it up that way is actually is a very effective way of telling the tragic part of the story.
Yeah. I was such a fan of it that I later started to dive into some of Roberto Benigni's other movies that he directed. And they're fun, they're great, but they don't come close to Life is Beautiful. Like, that is his masterpiece. That will, I think, forever be known as his greatest achievement.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about his other movies. I was just looking at them here.
They're funny. They're just much more like broad comedies. They don't have the... there's not quite as much of this emotional, sentimental side that Life is Beautiful has.
Well, and sometimes you just arrive at the perfect concept, right? And you happen to be the person with the perfect sensibilities to tell that story and tell it in that way, you know?
Yeah.
It seems like that's kind of what he arrived at with that movie. It's just a very fresh perspective on a story that's been told a lot of times and from a lot of different perspectives, but probably like the most unique Holocaust movie out there that I can think of.
And Tropic Thunder, which was another one that I was like debating. Do I even want to bring up Tropic Thunder? Because I was just like, it's not really like a real war.
Well, that's another great example of a comedy taking, making a comedy out of a war film, right?
Yeah, in some ways, to me, Tropic Thunder might almost be like the last truly great comedy maybe we had. I don't know. It was definitely a really good one, and it's been hard to find some since then. But it's that fine line of not finding the right things to make fun of while avoiding other things that just wouldn't work in a comedic setting.
Yeah.
But yeah, sure. Tropic Thunder I thought did a really great job of it, and not only that, but just also a movie that parodies just the genre of war films themselves.
Yeah, exactly.